title there for a minute and I was confused, but I realize it's you.
Yeah, good morning. That's what happens whenever you leave your computer somewhere else and use your wife's. Absolutely.
Well, Jeff, you tell me when we're ready to go and I will call the meeting to order, okay?
Judge, I think there was a little, okay, he's back.
Okay, Jeff, you tell me when we're ready to go and I will call the meeting to order, okay? Are we ready, Jeff?
Jeff says he's getting kicked off. Megan, you might want to text him.
Well, let's wait for him to get back on.
Judge, I'm sorry about that. I got kicked off somehow.
Okay, I was just saying, when you're ready to start, let me know and I'll call the meeting to order.
I'm ready if you are.
I am. I'll call the meeting to order. And Megan, would you call the roll, please?
Absolutely. The Honorable Sharon Keller,
Here.
Mr. Alex Bennon,
Here.
the Honorable Valerie Covey,
Here.
the Honorable Brandon Creighton, the Honorable Richard Evans,
Here.
Mr. Gonzalo Rios,
Here.
the Honorable Nathan Hecht, the Honorable Missy Maderi. I think she just came in. Judge Maderi. Okay, the Honorable Nicole Collier, the Honorable Reggie Smith,
Here.
the Honorable Sherry Reddick,
Here.
the Honorable Vivian Torres,
Here.
Honorable Judge Whitmire. Judge, we have quorum.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
here. I'm here also for the record. Sorry, I got kicked out of it, and then my audio wasn't working. So I'm here. Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Judge. The only report I have to make is to report that the staff has been working very hard on Operation Lone Star and thank them for pulling it all together as quickly and as efficiently as they have. And I will turn it over to Jeff for his report.
Thank you, Judge. Yeah, we have been busy. And I want to thank you all for joining yet another emergency board meeting. We're very hopeful that this is the last time that we have to call everyone together before our regular board meeting in December, but we really appreciate you all and we're very happy to have a quorum today and thankful for your time. I'll try to be brief, but feel free to interrupt with any questions that you might have. As you may remember, the governor launched Operation Lone Star in March to address an increase in illegal immigration. Since then, the governor has sent over 1,000 DPS officers to the border and opened 2 TDCJ facilities to house persons who are arrested as part of Operation Lone Star. Those facilities are Briscoe Unit in Frio County and the Segovia Unit in Hidalgo County. Since then, nearly 50 counties have joined Operation Lone Star as part of the disaster area. Most of the arrests, though, are taking place mainly in Kinney and Valverde counties. Most of those arrests are also for criminal trespass, though not all of them. We do have some felony arrests that have been part of it as well. The average number of arrests that we've seen so far has been, right in the past few weeks, has been hovering around 20 to 30 arrests per day. We still have been getting word that the number of arrests could go up to 200 cases per day or 200 arrests per day. But we're not there yet. We're closer to 20 to 30 right now. If the number of arrests go up to 200 per day, that is about 73,000 arrests per year. And our estimate is that we would need somewhere in the ballpark of 250 to 300 attorneys. In Kinney County, for example, where most of the arrests are happening right now, they only have 10 attorneys on the list. So that gap between 10 attorneys and 300 is pretty large. And so I think TIDC has been playing a pretty vital part in this. You'll recall that TIDC previously at some board meetings granted funds to the Lubbock Private Defender Office to serve as kind of the indigent defense hub for Operation Lone Star. What that means essentially is that they are appointing cases to attorneys. They're making sure those attorneys have access to investigators, interpreters, Padilla attorneys, whatever resources they need. And they're reviewing vouchers after private attorneys take cases. They have been using a combination of public defender offices and private attorneys, and they plan to in the future. TIDC also previously granted funds to My Padilla to serve as the kind of the Padilla hub. Basically, all of these cases do have potential immigration consequences, so the Padilla need is pretty great. And we're very fortunate to have been partnering with My Padilla so far. Since we last met, two big things that I want to highlight. One is that there's a Texas Supreme Court order that directs TIDC to help set procedures for Operation Lone Star when it comes to indigent defense. That includes things like setting the attorney fee schedule, setting qualifications to be on the list for Operation Lone Star, and reasons that somebody may be removed from the list for Operation Lone Star. Wesley has just now put in the chat a link to that Texas Supreme Court order if you've not seen it. And we do have draft procedures for Operation Lone Star starting on page 6 of your meeting notebook. There's no action that needs to be taken on that today, but we're happy to get any feedback that you have on that. The other big development is that the governor during the second special session, and I know Representative Smith can speak to this and with more knowledge than I can. We're in the third special session right now, but in the second, there was a bill passed called HB 9. HB 9 provided $1.8 billion for Operation Lone Star. Within that $1.8 billion, it included $29 million for indigent defense. We've tried on the staff side to really do a good estimate of what the current and projected needs are. And we don't believe that today that TIDC needs to grant out that full $29 million. We just don't think the arrest rate right now warrants it. So our recommendation on the staff side, and we will have some motions about this in a moment, is to grant out a smaller amount, about $9.6 million to LPDO, which again is serving as the Indigent Defense Hub. And those funds, a small sliver of that would go to LPDO for staffing. Most of that is going out the door, though, to private attorneys, public defenders, other folks providing indigent defense services as part of Operation Lone Star. There is a second grant that will be up today for consideration, and that is $280,000 for My Padilla. Again, we believe pretty much every one of these cases is a case that has a potential immigration consequence. So certainly there's going to be a big Padilla need there as well. I think that's all I have by way of update. Those are again, the biggest updates I think to focus on are the Texas Supreme Court order. And again, we've worked very closely with Texas Supreme Court and the Office for Administration on all of that. And then to the HB 9, which provides $29 million for indigent defense. The last thing I'll say, I just to echo what Judge Keller said, that I've been really proud of our staff. Anytime a disaster hits, things start flying around pretty quickly. And I'm very proud to say that TIDC has been a very steady organization in the midst of a lot of things going on very quickly. So I'm very proud of that. I testified last week in the legislature. I'll be testifying next week in the legislature about this, but very proud of our staff for all we've done on this. So that's my report for today. I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Okay, Jeff, is it time to consider the grant request? Is somebody going to report on those, or what comes next?
I believe that's right. Megan, can you scroll down a little bit? And Judge, I'll take a look. Wesley, do you have the agenda in front of you real quick? Do we have anything else before the motions?
We don't.
Okay.
Yeah, your update in the grant.
Okay, great.
Okay, then I'm going to go straight to the first motion then. Is there a motion to approve an FY 2020? Did you say something, Wesley? Okay. Is there a motion to approve an FY 2022 award of $9,646,931 to the Lubbock Private Defender Office to provide legal services to indigent defendants in Operation Lone Star cases, and authorize the executive director to approve advance payment of grant funds on a quarterly basis as needed to implement the program?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Okay, then, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Our second motion, is there a motion to approve an FY 2022 award of $281,437 to the Capital Area Private Defender Service and advance the funds for the My Padilla Immigration Project to advise indigent defendants in Operation Lone Star cases?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
I think your grandchild just seconded that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep it muted, but I can't quite do it at this moment. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. And I think that's it for me now. Jeff, next we consider grant modifications related to Operation Lone Star.
I think that's right, but Edwin, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we have any modifications for consideration today. Is that correct? Oh, is Edwin there?
He's on mute.
No modifications, he said.
All right, thank you, Wesley, appreciate it.
I apologize,
No,
no modifications today. That was placed there just in case, but we're fine for now.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Edwin. So next, who is going to report on monitoring related to Operation Lone Star?
I can do that, Judge. Really briefly, we're still developing the monitoring plan for Operation Lone Star, but we wanted to make sure that everyone here on the board realizes that TIDC isn't just simply pushing money out the door. We are keeping track of all this. We are monitoring. Normally, as you all know, we do policy monitoring, fiscal monitoring, and occasionally some grant monitoring. We do have a draft plan in there right now to give you a sense of what we'd be monitoring as part of Operation Lone Star. Much of it should seem familiar to you all. Normal policy monitoring and fiscal monitoring. Grant monitoring, we've done occasionally when it comes to large grants. And the grant monitoring basically is focused on whatever the stated objectives are of the grantees. So we're still developing that. And part of it, again, is we're just trying to figure out as this situation evolves, what do we need to monitor and what staff do we need to do that? So we're still figuring that out. But wanted to make sure just from the outset that you all have some sense of what monitoring looks like. So we have a brief draft in there. I think it's just a couple pages, but if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to talk about that. Judge, I think that's it for me on that.
Jeff, are we through? I mean, are we going to discuss the next meeting?
I think we're through, Wesley. Just to double check, do we have any other items? Are we good? We're good? Okay.
We don't have any other items on this agenda.
Okay.
Judge Keller, I'm sorry. Can I ask a quick question, and maybe somebody can help us there in regards to the indigent defense? Jeff, maybe you can answer.
Yeah, please.
So with the, and I haven't really read the article yet, but I was understanding that there was 250 people that were released in regards to this Lone Star, Operation Lone Star. Is that going to continue on, the releasals? And then is that the same as what we are discussing now? And if so, how do you think you're going to be keeping track of the individuals that have been appointed attorneys? Does that question make sense to you, Jeff?
It does. Yeah. And that is part of Operation Lone Star that over 200 persons were released. The issue in large part is that, all these cases are prosecuted locally. And when you look at some of these counties, so for instance, the county attorney in Kinney County, where the bulk of the cases are, that's a one attorney shop. His name is Brent Smith, a new county attorney, just started in January, and frankly was just overwhelmed by the volume. Recently, the Border Prosecution Unit stepped in, and a Border Prosecution Unit is not a separate agency, but kind of an loose affiliation of 17 different DAs kind of across the border. that work and kind of share resources. So they have stepped in to help with that. My understanding, I talked to, I got a call from Judge Tully Shahan, who was the county judge in Kinney County yesterday. Our understanding is that now many more of those cases are being charged. But one of the issues was that those cases were not being charged initially, and so things were starting to backlog a little bit. With regard to tracking the defendants, again, at Lubbock, private defenders kind of serving as the indigent defense hub. So they have a running list of every defendant who is sent to them from the OCA magistrates, and where that person is appointed counsel. So some of it may be through a public defender, some of it through private assigned counsel, but all of that they track. We also have Shannon Evans here today from LPDO if there are additional questions on that. But we also get, we receive this, and so does LPDO. Every Friday, we get a list from TDCJ of every defendant in the Briscoe unit related to OLS and every defendant in the Segovia unit related to OLS. And so we've asked, just because there's so many things flying around right now, to be really extra careful on this. Every Friday, LPDO has been going through that list they receive and tracking every defendant and just making sure that people aren't slipping through the cracks, and that everybody who's requested counsel and qualifies for counsel is receiving counsel.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I know that the PJs we're having issues with trying to get enough visiting judges to be able to do the 15-17 hearings. And so, it's like I wear a lot of different hats, and the TIDC hat, and then now with these 15-17 hearings, I mean, I think it's going to come to a crisis. So we're trying to figure it out what we're doing to get these individuals magistrated as well. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. And if you have any more questions, I'm always happy to talk. But OCA's had a very big hand in that, as you know. That just so for everybody else's sake, there's centralized magistration and booking at a facility in Del Rio. There is talk about opening up a second centralized facility as well. But that's been kind of one of the saving graces of this, is that with that centralization, it's been a lot easier to track defendants and appointments and magistrates centrally and all that. So, and 1622 and things like that have been much easier because of that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask that question. Appreciate it.
No, happy to answer, Judge.
Thanks for asking.
I
Justin?
have a comment and a question, if I might.
Please.
So when they don't show up, which is about 90% probability, then we're going to have failures to appear. Is that right? And then we'll start going to arrest them, bring them back. Is that what we're going to do?
Well, most of the persons arrested are being held pre-trial. Here's what's a little bit kind of unusual. Most of the persons who are arrested are being held pre-trial. Very few have been able to bond out. And so most are being held pre-trial in TDCJ facilities. So that the facilities, of course, are built as prisons. They're not really built as jails, but they are being kind of used as jails, essentially, holding folks pre-trial. And that's Briscoe and Segovia units. As far as the people who, but Judge, you asked a good question. I mean, there are people who are, after they've been in Briscoe for a while or Segovia for a while, there are people who, as Judge Maderi kind of indicated, have been released. And it's not totally clear, and we asked TDCJ about this, what will happen at that point, whether, some folks may have ICE holds, others may not. And that's something that apparently a lot of that is kind of in the hands of ICE and the federal agencies. And so we're waiting to hear back from them on that.
So we will release on PR bonds after the appropriate time. Is that correct?
Correct.
So they'll be out on PR. I mean, this is going to be a train wreck, I think, to say the least.
Jeff, do you know if ICE is picking up most of the people that were arrested in Operation Lone Star? That was my impression.
Yeah, I think that's correct, but we're still trying. Last week, I spoke with TDCJ just a couple days ago, and we're still trying to get a little bit more clarity. I think that's accurate as of last week and early this week. I think in the past few days, given the question that Judge Maderi mentioned, that a lot more people are about to be released, TDCJ wasn't really certain what would happen with those folks. So that's, I think, the big question mark.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else? This is the time to ask questions if you have any.
I do
Judge,
have
this
another
is Nicole
question.
Collier.
I couldn't tell who was talking, but one of you go ahead.
I have a question. If we have a new regional public defender office, if he were to elect to opt into this would be, because it can't be an interlocal agreement because Lubbock's a nonprofit, not government. So it would be a contract between the Kerr County is our anchor county. Kerr County would have to contract with Lubbock, and then the oversight committee has to approve it. How's it?
I think that's how it would work, Judge Evans. Yes, I think that the Lubbock Private Defender Service would execute a contract with the host county, which is Kerr, and they, of course, Kerr would only be able to do that after vetting it with the partner counties. That's my guess of how that should go. But we'd be happy to work with you all as you explore that.
Well, we're new. We're just finally staffed fully now. It's going to be difficult, I think, for us to expand to do that. But we'll talk.
It sounds good, Judge. Yeah, any questions you have, feel free to reach out.
Judge, may I ask a question, please?
Sure,
Judge Keller?
please. Yes.
So are the hearings being held virtually, the 15-17 hearings, or are they?
Yeah, so essentially, when after a person's arrested, they're brought to regardless of where they're arrested, as long as it's within that DPS region, which is a fairly large region that includes Del Verde, Kinney, Maverick counties, Uvalde, and several more. Once somebody's arrested within that region, they're brought to a facility in Del Rio, and it's a temporary facility. And so the defendant is present there. They're booked at that facility. And then there's a program, and I think the program was purchased by TDEM, the Texas Department of Emergency Management, a program called Video Magistrate that is used for magistration. So the defendant is present, again, regardless of where they're arrested, as long as it was within that DPS region, they're brought to that Del Rio facility, they're magistrated there. The actual magistrate could be anywhere in the state, and OCA has trained up 31 different magistrates to handle those cases, and they gave them, I was able, thankfully, to sit in on that training that they received from Nicholas Chu, one of the judges and JPs here in Travis County. So they all received similar training. They're then magistrated. In magistration, I think most folks know, but just to review that it includes a determination of probable cause, asking whether they want to request counsel, and then setting bond. And then if counsel is requested, that request is then handed off to LPDO, who, again, is kind of the indigent defense hub. And then LPDO makes that appointment at that point. But yeah, with the exception of the defendant and some of the court staff and DPS and TDEM folks who are in Del Rio, everything else is kind of remote. So that the magistrate could be, again, kind of anywhere in Texas.
So Representative,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to add on to that answer for you, Representative Collier. This is Missy. So what's happening is the presiding judges have combed through our lists of visiting judges, and we have made those recommendations to OCA, and then the chief actually is the one that designates the individuals and gives them the power of magistration, basically. The problem is with, the 15-17 hearings, sometimes if our volume goes up, then it becomes more concerning because if you don't do 10 people at a time on a 15-17 hearing, and then individually bring them up to make determinations of probable cause, and then bond and then everything else, then OCA was pulling out their hair because some of these hearings that started at 6 o'clock at night were lasting till 11 or 12 at midnight, because there's a time limit that we have to get those 15-17s done. And so now they've just called out a list to get more visiting judges because the numbers are going up. But I concur with Jeff. They're all, if I was a retired visiting judge, I would do it because you're sitting in yoga pants and your slippers and doing a 15-17 hearing. So, but they're incredibly important and they have to be done statutorily by a certain time. So I was just trying to update help as well. So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask, do any of them have counsel by that time, or?
Yeah, good question. Not at magistration.
Yeah. At 15-17 hearings, Representative Collier, all you're doing is making a determination. Before I was a district judge, I was a municipal court judge for 8 years, so I did it every day. and all you're doing is making a probable cause determination. If you find no probable cause, that person gets let go. If you find probable cause, then you read them their rights, that you have the right to remain silent, you have a right to an attorney, one will be appointed to you, and then there's also consular notification as well.
So well, then why, I guess I read in the paper that some of them hadn't been charged with anything. Did you guys see that, or is that true?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Judge,
I'm
do
trying
you
to figure out
want
if you can
respond?
determine probable cause. How can you
Sure,
determine
sure.
probable cause if there's charges?
And I'll maybe mention two things. One, to piggyback up real quick off what Judge Maderi was saying, that I think right now we've got 7 counties, maybe we're up to 8 in Texas out of 254 that have counsel at magistration. So it's more the exception rather than the rule. But 2 notes on counsel at magistration. One is that 2 years ago, TIDC funded a study of counsel at magistration. Right now, that's going on in Hays County and in Potter County. That study should be done in the next couple months, and hopefully we have a report in the next 6 months, just to see what the effectiveness is of counsel at magistration, what the impact is. The other note on counsel at magistration, there is a case, Booth versus Galveston, that's pending in the Fifth Circuit regarding counsel at magistration and whether that's required under the Sixth Amendment. But right now, as part of Operation Lone Star, there is no counsel at magistration. As to you'd asked about the charging instrument, or charges being brought. Yeah, a lot of that has been, and again, I think we're starting to see way more charges now. But usually you don't have charges at the point of magistration. You'd have just a probable cause determination, and then later on you would have charges brought. I think that the biggest issue we've seen in terms of Operation Lone Star and charges being brought has been that, unlike magistration, where we've thankfully been able to kind of centralize everything and everybody goes through Del Rio and there's a standard process. And as Judge Maderi said, we have these 31 magistrates who are the presiding judges help provide. Unlike all of that, when it comes to actually adjudicating the case, all of that is adjudicated locally and depends really on kind of local resources, how the size and the resources of the county attorney's office and things like that. And the big issue has been, again, Kinney County is a great example of this, where the county attorney's office is just one attorney. He has no, I think he has one administrative assistant, no other attorneys. He's a relatively new county attorney. I don't think he's really prosecuted before this past year. And so the volume of these cases, where they usually see maybe a few dozen a year, has been hundreds all of a sudden. So I think a lot of the charging instruments have been pretty slow to come so far, but we're starting to see that pick up considerably.
And I
then
think
my last question, go ahead.
Just to respond, I think the Border Prosecution Unit is helping with that and trying to get
right.
people charged.
That's right. And we spoke with the Border Prosecution Unit just yesterday. And you're exactly right, Judge, that they're, basically the Border Prosecution Unit, again, is like a kind of an affiliation of 17 different district attorneys along the border that work together and kind of step up and step in when they need additional capacity. So we talked to Tanya Alschweda yesterday, part of the BPU, the Border Prosecution Unit. So yeah, I think that's a big part, Judge, of that increase in charging instruments being filed.
And then last question, if an attorney would like to participate, I guess, to get on the, to be a court-appointed attorney, do they need to be in that location, or can they also appear virtually?
Yeah, that's a great question. They do not have to be in that location. And in fact, TCDLA and LPDO and TIDC, we've all sent out emails to private attorneys, recruiting them to take cases. Much of the work can be done remotely. A lot of the adjudication is done remotely. There are some things, client visitation and investigation and other parts that oftentimes do have to take place in person, but there are funds for helping that happen. So there is funding for travel, for investigation, for client visitation. All of that is built into it. So they do not have to be based in these counties. And in fact, that's kind of by necessity, in part because, for instance, again, Kinney County has about 10 attorneys on the list. So nowhere near the number of attorneys. I mean, if we get to 200 arrests per day, we probably need 300 attorneys. Right now, we're well beyond needing just 10. So absolutely, they don't have to be there. Every attorney, though, again, we're using LPDO kind of like the Indigent Defense Hub. So every one of those private attorneys that wants to try to get on the list should contact Lubbock Private Defender. So they're maintaining the list. And same thing with public defender offices. They don't have to be in that region. In fact, we don't have public defender offices in Valverde County or Maverick or Kinney counties, they don't exist. But we do have, and we have Shannon Evans on the phone. I want to say, I think we've got 6 public defender offices that are talking about stepping in and helping out, though.
That's correct.
Cool. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you. Thank you.
Shannon, did you want to add anything before we go to the next item on the agenda?
I was going to give y'all just a quick rundown. As of today, we've received 1,084 cases. 933 of those are assigned in between private attorneys and private organizations. Phil and I will put the request for proposals out, and we were hoping to get proposals and budgets by October 15th. We've set our goal to potentially have teams in place that are approved by October 30th. And one of the questions I had heard earlier was, how are we tracking? And we have built up a whole case management system that's similar to the one that LPDO uses. So everything's being tracked in Legal Server.
Thank you, Shannon. That sounds great. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying thank you.
Oh, okay. It's hard for me to tell on Zoom. Okay, any other questions at this point? If not, we'll go on to the next meeting. Jeff, have we set the meeting yet?
We have. The next meeting will be December 3rd, and in just one moment, I can pull up the time for everyone. It is set for December 3rd at 11 a.m. That'll be a regularly scheduled kind of quarterly TIDC board meeting.
And at this point, I think we're hoping to have it in person, but we're putting off that decision till kind of the last minute. So I don't mean the last minute. I mean,
Right.
we're not. Okay. Any new business from anyone? Any comments? Any public comments? All right, then I think we're ready to adjourn. Thank you all for participating, and